All right, welcome to the Coach's Corner TV. And today I'd like to introduce my special guest, Wendy Lynne, who's the director of Mental Toughness Academy. She oversees the marketing, social media, and JV partnerships for the Mental Toughness Training for youth athletes. She is in the process of developing new mental training products for soccer, hockey, softball, and basketball players and coaches. She has over 30 years of experience in marketing and sales and uses her knowledge to help kids, their parents, and coaches transform their thinking so that they lead happier, healthier, and more successful lives. It is with great pleasure that I bring to you this interview. Wendy's been a great help for me as I kick off my endeavors, my passion for youth sports. I met Wendy several months ago, and she's just been absolutely great. The Mental Toughness Training is an online program with many modules that will help your athlete with confidence, focus, determination, and resiliency. Personally, I have personally used the product with my kids, and I absolutely love it. It's a great program. I encourage you to sign up at the end of this interview or in the show notes. And with no further ado, here's Wendy Lynne. Mario Souza, your host, and today I'm extremely excited to introduce my special guest, Wendy Lynne, co-founder of Mental Toughness Academy. Wendy, great to have you. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk.
Awesome. Well, tell me a little bit of a story about how you got involved with Mental Toughness Academy.
Well, I had met Craig, the mental toughness trainer, and saw how amazing he is with kids one-on-one. He just is really fabulous at connecting with kids, speaking in a way that kids listen. He gets feedback from parents all the time saying, I said the same thing to my kid and it went in one ear and out the other. Why did what you said, influence him? And sometimes it's just having a outside authority or someone that's been successful with many other kids that makes kids feel very good about what they're learning. So I had seen that he had a mental training for golfers, and he's got like 15,000 golfers following him on his
Wow.
mental game training for golf. And so I said, let's do something like this for kids. My passion is to transform kids' lives. I mean, that's what gets me out of bed in the morning is how can we help kids learn ways to empower themselves? And sports just seems perfect because most kids want to get better in their sport. And so you don't say to a kid, we're going to teach you self-empowerment. We're going to teach you how to get better in your sport. And the side benefit is they're better able to focus. They're more determined. They're more confident. And the biggest thing that I think that we teach that I'm very proud of is how to overcome adversity and resilience, because all of us in life, stumble and we fall down the stairs. We have some setback, and if you don't know how to come back from that's really tough. And a lot of adults don't know how to come back from setbacks or adversity. So if you can learn this as a kid, I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me to my next question. What have you, as a parent, learned about Mental Toughness Academy, and how this whole process can really just not really impact an athlete's sports, but you kind of mentioned just the whole life skills. What it can do for athletes as they move on their journey, even beyond sports.
Well, what happens with all of us, Mario, is that somehow we develop or we form a belief or thought about ourselves, and a lot of times it's actually in our unconscious mind. We don't even realize we're saying it, but we might say to ourselves, we're a great baseball player, we're a fabulous student, but then you have something else saying, no, you're not, or you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not fast enough, you're not big enough. And if you have that program running, no matter how much visualization you do or how much you tell yourself you're a winner, it's just not going to work. So you need to really get into your unconscious thoughts and change those. And what we've developed is actually a 6-step system that helps kids and adults. Craig does this with adults as well. Really tap into what their negative thoughts are, turn those around and gives them lots of tools and techniques to do that. And I think that if you can learn that in life, you're set, because you're taking a test and you tell yourself, uh-oh, I'm not smart enough, or, I'm terrible at math, which is what I did. All those thoughts really limit you in where you go in life.
Right now, and you mentioned it being great for adults. I personally am a user of the program. I'm a big fan,
Thank
and
you.
I got to say, I've personally had some great takeaways. Recently interviewed Craig and had some great insight as well. So I definitely recommend the product. Wendy, what would you tell a skeptical parent about working with mental toughness?
Well, I can understand it. It seems easier, I guess, to put your money into training, getting an extra coach or getting your kid more assistance on the physical area, because that seems very obvious. But if you can help your child on the mental side of the game, it improves everything. It improves their practice and improves their training, just improves their whole outlook. We've had so many parents say that their relationship has dramatically changed because when kids understand, and we talk about this in the program, understand that parents are really there to support and help them. And a lot of times parents just don't know the right thing to say. But if kids can get perspective, and that's one of the things we teach is perspective that their coaches are doing the best they can, that their parents are doing the best they can, just gives them a whole different outlook on life. We really need that skill to be able to reframe or relook at our situation and say it in a different way. So I think that's one of the bigger gifts. And I think that if parents understand that they can help their kids dramatically change how they look at how they play their sport, how they look at why they're going to school, what their role is in the family. All that's the mental side of the game, and that's invaluable as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, and it's great. And Craig and I were talking recently about the importance of for coaches when you say the word focus. I think many a times I myself, and I admitted to Craig that I can do this where you tell kids to focus, but then you don't really go like beyond that.
How do you
So
do that? Yeah.
kids don't really understand what does that mean, and a lot of times what I find is that, especially when you have a lot of experience and you've and as a coach, if you've played or you've been involved in sports, it's real easy to get caught up in all the verbal jargon that you heard from coaches growing up, and if you played at any kind of high level, to talk to a kid and they look at you like, what are you talking about? And so when you say the word focus, and one of the things Craig really drilled in on was really being very clear about what you're asking, and actually get them more involved in responding. So I think one of the great things about your program that would really teach kids as well is to not just get clear and get focused, but also get them out of those short responses, as Craig would mention. If you say, are you having fun, instead of them saying yes, be a little more specific about what do you actually like about what you do. And that's really going to help the child really develop and get out of that shell. And it's so important in sports is really that whole social aspect. And you guys really kind of work on all of those things that really start to move that needle.
Well, you make a good point too. I want to just bring this up is that what worked for you as a parent, as an athlete, as a coach, does not always work for your children. And we learned that as parents very quickly. You have more than one kid, and what worked for one kid does not necessarily work
They're
for
never the
another.
same. Yeah.
They're never the same. So if you approach how you talk to them, how you motivate them, how do you talk to them after a loss or mistake, each kid needs a different technique. Some kids are going to want to be pumped up. Some kids are going to need you to really develop a relationship and rapport. There's lots of different ways that you need to do that. And if you don't take the time to figure that out for your kid, that's how they start forming these negative beliefs and start feeling bad about themselves. So you can do some big damage by just in your own good spirit trying to do the right thing because it worked for you, and realizing maybe this isn't going to work as well for your own kid.
Yeah, hey, Wendy, so what would you say is the biggest misunderstanding about the Mental Toughness Academy or sports psychology in general? As you provide your program, what's some of the feedback that you get that you may be able to um, help people really kind of understand a little bit more about it?
I think the biggest thing is that sports psychologists do a great job of talking theory, and a lot of times kids, that just goes over kids' heads, the theory behind it, and relying on breathing, to tell a kid, well, you're feeling anxious and stressed, just deep breathe. I mean, that's great, but that's just really the tip of the iceberg. And they spend a lot of time just focusing on visualization and positive self-talk. And as I touched on before, you can tell yourself you're a winner and you can see yourself hitting the ball, out the field. But if you're saying to yourself as you walk up to the plate, I can't hit against this guy. I'm not big enough. I'm not strong enough. It's just not going to work. So you need to tap into those emotions in addition to helping kids learn how to focus, how to visualize, and all those other things. So they're missing the boat if you just do that surface talk therapy and assuming that you can just use positive visualization to turn your life around. That doesn't always work for kids.
Well, and you brought up a great point when you talked about tapping into the emotional side. Obviously, over time, so many kids have been taught to avoid their emotions, to not show emotion, and I think that's just so important. I mean, I know for myself, growing up, I was always more of an emotional kid. If I was excited, you knew I was excited, and I think many a times we've tended to suppress that. So that's awesome to really hear. And you're right, and and I find a lot of times working with coaches that you do need to really break things down, and I think a lot of times there is a lot of theory out there, and just really helping people just understand it a little bit more step by step. Sometimes I think people say, well, some coaches may not, want all the details, but it just, like I said, it's so important to make sure that you can meet every individual, like you said, right where they are, and not expect them to perform at a higher level, and really just kind of build them up to that.
Yeah, I think the other point that I see quite a bit is forgetting to help kids play for the love of the game. We get quickly out of it when we see our kids have talent, they have skill, and they might go somewhere that all of a sudden we take it from, oh, we just got our kid to involved in sports because they love it and they have so much fun, to, oh my gosh, here's my potential to get a scholarship for my child or for them to play professional sports. And it really sends the wrong message. It's really important to help kids get back to playing for the love of the game. And that's one of the big things we teach as far as performance anxiety. If they're basing their happiness on winning or losing, you're going to have a very unhappy kid, maybe 50% of the time. So really helping them get back to the love of the game, why they're playing, just the fun of learning a new skill will carry them so much further than putting the pressure on them that they've got to win, or, feeling really super bad when they lose.
That's a great point. I've been now coaching for over 20 years, and the last 5 before getting back into coaching youth hockey. I spent a lot of time at the amateur and elite level. And the interesting thing about coming back into youth sports, it's been such a great way to really kind of step back. And you're right. I don't end any practice or any game without ever asking the kids, are you having fun? You know what I mean? And then sometimes I take the last 3, 4, 5 minutes of practice where some people might think, you're wasting time. This time is precious and limited. We get 1 hour, but it's really important to me to make sure that the kids can share feedback with me and say, hey, am I moving too quick? Are we moving fast enough, or am I the problem, right? Am I slowing it way down? And for me, I'm always cognizant of that, because anytime you can coach different levels, you really got to put things in perspective, and always got to constantly remind myself to not expect these kids to know what I know, or to say something and expect them to know. So many important things, all the way from the natural progression of showing a kid, having them try it, and then actually practicing. So going through that pattern to make sure the kids really understand. So some great points and feedback, and this is just a great conversation. Wendy, that I hope to be able to have more in the future as we kind of get going. Any other thoughts? Anything you'd like to share with our audience before we end?
I don't think so. I really appreciate what you're doing, because I think that's so important to give coaches support and let them know that there's different methods, different modes, different ways that they can get better. I mean, coaches are amazing. The majority of them are giving so much more than they're getting as far as pay or even appreciation from parents. I know that. And so for us, we greatly appreciate, and I appreciate just as a parent, the role that coaches are doing, and for you to be able to give them support and education and help them do better in their job. I think that's awesome. So I appreciate what you're doing too.
Well, in this conversation, you brought up a good point, and I'll kind of share one more quick story about when I actually went from coaching youth sports to the last, I mentioned 5 years coaching at the elite sport. The really interesting thing is a lot of coaches will never really understand the impact that they have in a child's life, because obviously it won't be till several years later to where some of these kids will be like, man, I really like that coach, or he really impacted my life. And so to coaches out there, just know you really are making a difference, and the impacts are huge. And the quick story that I wanted to say, and what really showed me in my life and impacted me, was when I started coaching in the Professional Inline Hockey League. And I actually went, we had a major draft in Northern California, and I actually had several players that played for me when they were 12, 13, 14 years old, who actually had gotten away from sports, hadn't even been playing the game. When they found out that I was part of this, they all came out of the woodworks. And that really changed my life forever, because when I had these 12, 13, 14-year-old kids telling me how much it meant to be a Mustang — we were the Northern California Mustangs — how much it meant to be a Mustang, and to have them become a Mustang again in a professional league several years later, it impacted my life forever. And so my real push for getting back into youth sports and being involved in youth sports development really comes from that experience that I had with those players that today are really like family. Regardless of where I'm coaching or where I go, they support me today, and they've really shown me that I've impacted their lives forever. So coaches, just really know that you are making a difference, and what you do matters.
Yeah, and we greatly appreciate it as parents. And yes, thank you for sharing that story, because that's touching.
Yeah, awesome, Wendy. Well, thank you very much. Hopefully in the future, as we get going, we'd love to have you on again. But again, my name is Mario Souza, and you're listening to the Coach's Corner TV. Thank you very much.